Hello and welcome to episode 61?
I think 62.
62
so.
of Wrong End of the Podcast. Wrong End of the Stick podcast with me, Zach
The
Eaton.
wrong end of the podcast, yeah, I like
wrong
it.
End,
That's
it's
what we
wrong
should
end of the
be.
stick, wrong end of the podcast. It's just the wrong end of everything. But we're in the right end of 2021. Welcome. It's me, Zach Eaton, and Jonathan Nimmo for another episode.
I know. that was a chaotic start, wasn't it?
It always is.
It is, yeah, that is, yeah. We've got I don't know, we've got a few things to get into today, haven't we? We've got the cricket world buzz with chat about Australia and India, both the game and some well, not even off field, it's on field, but not during the game kind of stuff that we've got to talk about. So yeah, we'll get into a little bit of that. Is it all in the spirit of cricket? Yeah.
Well, I think
all the debates, all our debates come back to that, isn't it? So that's interesting. We'll get into that. We're then going to have a little bit of a preview of England Sri Lanka, which starts this week, and we will of course do predictions. We haven't done predictions for a while, have we? Do predictions of that series, and then of course the Umpire Strikes Back.
Love the Umpire Strikes Back.
I love the Umpire Strikes Back as well. I could genuinely do that all day, but there we are. We'll get to that as well. Good times. So, Australia, India. Well, what can we say? You haven't seen a lot of this stuff, has you? Because, well, to be fair, I haven't actually seen a lot of the play because it happens literally overnight. So it starts at about the point I'm going to bed and finishes just before I get up, which is not ideal for cricket. But yeah, it's a very close test series between Australia and India at the moment. So India are in Australia, and it's currently 1-1 in the test series. And I think it's the third test. Yeah, it's definitely the third test. It went down to the wire. Australia were pretty dominant. And it went down to the last day where India basically had to bat out the day to survive. And, well, they did, and they have survived, and Australia really should have been in a position to beat them, and they fell quite a long way short. They only took 5 wickets of the 10 that they needed to win that match. But in the process of that last innings and that final day, there were a few niggles, shall we say, that's probably the best way to put it, a few niggles between the two teams, which resulted in a few bits of controversy, and the Australia captain Tim Paine has actually come out and apologised for his conduct on the field and said he was a poor captain and he wasn't leading his team in the way that he should have done, which I thought was interesting. But yeah, basically there was a bit of an incident between him and Ravi Ashwin, I think it was. And yeah, there was a bit of sledging going on, shall we say, and there was some people suggesting that Tim Paine had put on a bit of an accent and was kind of mocking the accent, a bit of an Apu-style Simpsons accent, and there was a bit of sledging going on in between the two of them, and then basically Tim Paine's sledging, we're not going to repeat it here because it does contain some expletives, that family-friendly podcast and all that. But yeah, it just wasn't for me. I mean, the thing was that Tim Paine just wasn't very witty. The good sledge has to be a bit witty and a bit clever, and unsettle people that way. And it was just a bit, stupid, really. And what actually came out of it was that he'd used the exact same insult to Ravi Ashwin as he had done on Virat Kohli a few tests earlier. So I was like I think last year. I was like, so he's not even been original. But yeah. So what did you make of all of that little controversy?
I think hearing it on the news and reading about some of it is, and not to make a sweeping generalization at all, the Aussies are the Aussies are a competitive team, and competitive comes in all kind of shapes, sizes, and colors, and they can be they can have some good chat. I don't think this was an example of good chat, but I feel like this was a reflection of where they thought the game was heading and that frustration of not being able to be in the position that they should be. And I think it came out in some very kind of crude and not very witty or clever things to sort of say. I think I think the game obviously took its toll on Tim, and I think he behaved in, not a very clever way. And, I wouldn't go as far as saying, I think there's other elements in that match that need to be addressed a little bit more forcibly when it comes to stuff about some of the insults and offensive behaviour that was going on. I think from Tim Payne and the team, it was probably a case that they were under pressure, and in professional and two very competitive teams, I think that led to him coming out with some really unwitty and really unsavoury things.
Yeah, and
I'm glad he came out and apologised. I am glad he came out and apologised.
I think he needed to, and I think in sort of what has slightly overshadowed the whole of this test really has been that there's been some racial abuse thrown from some of the Australian supporters towards some of the Indian players, which is not ever what we want to see. But we're not going to focus on that too much, because that's it is a vocal minority rather than anything else.
Yeah.
But I think you are right in that when you do see the Australians under pressure, because they're not actually under pressure that often. They're like the games that they have, particularly when they're at home, they tend to dominate. I think we will probably see it in the next Ashes series. When we're down there, I don't think that they experience that kind of pressure, and they are under pressure at the moment because India are matching them. They are two clearly evenly matched teams, and the fact that India haven't got their full strength team and they're missing several first team players, and I think the cracks kind of starts. Like Australia tried to rebrand after the whole sandpaper get, and they had this like Amazon TV show, and they showed like Tim Payne, a new nice guy captain, and I think the cracks of that are starting to show that I'm not sure the culture of that team has actually changed. I think they put a nice shiny veneer on it, but I don't really think it's changed that much. I mean,
that's such an interesting observation, I think, and the fact that you say like the culture hasn't changed. Well, I think Australians, like, they are good at chat, and this is a competitive playing field, and no matter what veneer you pull on it, you're looking at a documentary about the heart and passion that is there about the game and about the team and about wanting to do well for their country, a sport they love. Yeah, cool, but this is a competitive environment, and the Australians are excellent talkers. They are good at giving a bit of stick.
They are, and I think the other thing that was talked about a lot on the internet that you saw happening on one of the stump cameras was during the drinks break. Steve Smith went up and did a bit of shadow batting on the last day. Well, why he was shadow batting? Because he was never coming into bat again. I don't know, but he was. And then he erases the guard of one of the Indian batsmen. He just like scuffs it out with his foot. So when the India guy comes back on to bat, he has to take guard again, and he has to mark out the bit on the on this pitch that he's got again. And it's just it's nothing that's going to change the game, but it just makes Australia look quite petty. And yeah, it's just, I think you're just starting to see that little bit of as soon as they are under pressure, this kind of ultra competitive, will do anything to win kind of attitude comes out, and that's okay to a certain point, but as we've seen, that can lead to rubbing sandpaper on the ball to try and get an advantage to win, which obviously is not all right. And I think that's the interesting bit, I think, of what has shown through, is that Australia are still trying to find where that line is, and they're still going to push that boundary as much as they possibly can in order to win, because they still do have that win at all costs culture, that attitude, that underlying, that is their message. We will do anything we can to win. And that's probably why they are better than England, because England don't really have that, but that can get you in trouble at times as well. So
it's I think you're exactly right, and I think there's this real line which I think the Spirit does really well to kind of make sure that people are treading carefully around it and on it, is that there is a difference between grit and determination and even cunning into being quite petty and unsportsmanlike. And actually,
Yeah.
You know, kind of verging on the offensive. And it's again, and I think Tim Payne he needed to, and I'm glad that he did came out and apologized for the way that he behaved, and I think that was a good step. I think I don't know whether or not this is the last that you'll kind of see of it though, and I think you look at sporting events throughout history. We look at the body line, and we look at some other sort of events, ball tampering and drop catches. Well, for the opposite for Pakistan, obviously, when hedging bets against themselves. But it is that competitive environment. You are going to kind of see it, and I would probably like to see more focus on what some of the fans were saying, because I don't think you travel across the world. You want to give the people a good show. You're playing the sport that you love. And no matter what the playing field is, whether you're in a professional environment, out, walking the dog, or in a competitive and professional sport, no one deserves to be, hollered that kind of abuse, or any kind of racially charged or hate charged abuse like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely right, and I think that they need to crack down on that side of things as well, massively. So yeah, I think that's and just for the sake of balance. Why am I being balanced? I'm never balanced on this podcast, just accidentally that. But for the sake of being balanced, Australia they were saying that India were sort of trying to be a little bit cheeky with the rules as well, because India's wicketkeeper went off injured on the fourth day, so they had a different wicketkeeper in who took a number of quite spectacular catches. And then on the fifth day, their regular wicketkeeper was fit enough to bat again, and they were saying, well, he wasn't really injured. You were just trying to get the other guy in because he was better. And so, there's things on both sides, shall we say. So I think it's a highly competitive series, and it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in the last, towards the end of that series as well, because there's more to come. And as 1-1, it's going to be really interesting to see how it goes, and what happens there. So the fourth test is at Brisbane, starting on this weekend. I think this Friday. I think that starts. So, but again, games are going to be crazy times for anyone in England. Interesting to watch though. I think the way the World Test Championship is heading, it's going to be those two facing off against each other at Lords as well, which will be really interesting to see on sort of neutral ground. That's going to be a fascinating series.
That'd be an amazing game. Who are you hedging your bets on for this series?
For this series, I have a horrible feeling Australia, because I think what tends to happen with that Australian team is when they are sort of backed into a corner a little bit, they tend to come out swinging. And I think there's been a lot of attention on this series and this past game, and the Tim Payne stuff, the Steve Smith stuff, and this, that, and the other. And I think they are trying to sort of use that, and I think they probably will use that very well, and come out and probably take the last game. Would be my thought. And I think India, it's the end of their sort of series. They've been touring for a while. They've lost, Kohli, their sort of talisman, who went back home because his wife was giving birth, and they've lost a few other first team players. And I think the end of a series sort of fatigue is going to set in a little bit for them, and I think that will probably be it for them. I think they'll probably lose it 2-1. That's my thought. How about you?
I don't know. I would like India to win. As you mentioned, I've not been following it as much as I have been. I'm looking forward to a weekend of cricket once England gets started, but I haven't been following the Australian-Indian game too much. I think just probably being part of the Barmy Army, I'm always going to shoot for India over Australia.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I definitely want India to win. I think Australia will win. That's just to be clear there.
Yeah, I'm going to go for India. Will claw it back.
I'd like to see that. I would definitely.
And there'll be some probably more unsportsmanlike things on the way there as well.
Well, it'll give us something to talk about next week, won't it? So let's hope so. if only for podcast material.
What are we looking forward? Are we, before we go into it? Are we going into the England Sri Lanka stuff, or are we doing the Umpire Strikes Back? Because I'm excited about.
I know you're excited, but no, we're going to talk about because I think all the listeners will be excited too, and we want them to hang on to the end of the podcast. So we're going to do England Sri Lanka first, and then we're going to do Umpire Strikes Back.
Love it.
Okay. So England Sri Lanka. So England begin their tour of Sri Lanka. So they've gone down there, and they are obviously struggling in terms of, they can't do like a normal tour where they're having, warm-up matches and all the rest of it, which we've talked about before is often England's downfall, really, because they don't start quickly enough. So we could see some issues there. The other thing, so we've got 2 tests down in Sri Lanka. The team isn't as full strength as you would like to see, potentially. So Jofra Archer has been rested. And I think Ben Stokes has been rested as well. I don't think he's travelled, but I'm prepared to be corrected on that one. But I don't think he's gone either. Moeen Ali has gone with the team because often you need more spinners due to the pitches down in Sri Lanka. Being more spin-friendly pitches. So Moeen Ali has travelled, but he has definitely been ruled out of the first test because he was tested positive for COVID. And he might now be out of the second test as well, apparently. So he might have to isolate for a bit longer, which might rule him out for the entire series. Which is a hell of a long way to go to sit in a hotel room, isn't it? But you've got a feel for him. But we'll see where we get to with that and who England pick as their 2 spinners. Because, again, traditionally, you pick 2 spinners in Sri Lanka. The likelihood is Dom Bess and Jack Leach. But England have got a few other younger options there. Mason Crane is down there as well. So there's a few other potential options for them. So it'll be interesting to see how the England spinners get on, because this is what we've talked about before as being one of England's weaknesses, really. And then I think the other thing to mention is that Sri Lanka are obviously just back from South Africa themselves, so they've been playing tests in South Africa. And they lost that series 2-0 to South Africa as well. So they are going to be coming off the back of an away loss to see to play England at home. It's going to be a really competitive series, I think. But yeah, how do you see it going?
It's interesting. An England team not at full strength on the back of a loss, lots of travel involved in an environment that is nothing like what they're used to. Oh well, it is what as an international team, it's what they're used to, but it's not the conditions that they're used to playing on. I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know how limber they're going to be, especially if the team's not kind of at full strength. I think the spinners not being there, can be a bit of an issue. I think if we had a full if we had our, core kind of lineup of pacers in there, Archer being rested is another thing where you're kind of thinking, well, in the bowling attack side of things, what have we got? We've still got some rapid pace, but I don't know. I don't know. Just without knowing a lot about where the Sri Lankan team is at and what their success rate has been, even though they're not one of the more prominent cricket teams, they're still at international standard. They're still, going to be out there to sort of win it. And whether or not England are prepared for that is, I think, uncertain based on the team and on the back of a loss to South Africa. So I think it's going to be a hard match. I'm hoping England cruise it, which is what I think you'd expect after the year we had. But yeah, I think it's anybody's game. I think if England win it, it will be a struggle for them.
All right, then. Shall we do predictions then? So we've got 2 test series. What is the score going to be?
I reckon it'll be a draw.
I reckon
England will scrape a draw. I want them to win, but I reckon they'll scrape a draw.
It's 1-1. They'll take one each, yeah.
Yeah, I think they'll lose they'll lose the first one,
Mm-hmm.
and then they'll win. They'll win the second one.
Do you know what? I don't know what's happened to us as a podcast, but I feel like our positions have reversed because I'm going confident. I think England are going to win 2-0.
Okay.
And that's very not like me. I'm very much more the pessimist, and you are normally the wildly optimistic. Yeah, England are going to go to Australia and win 5-0 kind of thing. But yeah, so I don't know what's happened to us. So you're going cautiously 1-1, and I'm going 2-0. So, but yeah, there we are. No, I think England are just going to have too much for Sri Lanka. I think there's issues there in the England team, but I think with the ballers we've got, I think there's enough batting there to back up that bowling attack, and I think we'll be all right. I think it's a good chance for some of those spinners to work in conditions that are quite favourable for them, and I think they'll look forward to that and relish that opportunity. And I think we're going to see some good performances. So yeah, there we go. I'm confident.
Like that.
Yeah. I know. I'm feeling very unwell now. I don't know. I think I need to go for a lie down.
Oh dear. Yeah. Well, as I said, I hope you're right.
Yeah.
And my prediction comes from only understanding some of the stuff that England have gone through and the kind of past 6 months of cricket without a lot of knowledge from what the Sri Lankan side have been doing. So yeah, I do hope you're right. I hope they cruise it and win 2-0, but I don't know.
I mean, I think they're going to be close games. Let's put it that way. I'm not thinking England is going to go there and absolutely smash it, and it's going to be 2 comfortable wins, and that's going to be it. I think they are going to be very tight, and I think it will be, both games will be close. But I think England have enough that I think this is going to be a really good test for this England team actually, and I think actually if they do manage to come through and win in conditions that are a little bit more adverse than we have seen for a little while, then I think that will stand them in good stead. And I think a lot of the young players that we've got that will be experiencing that, your Sam Currans, your batsmen at the top of the order that are relatively new. I think if they come through that and get some big scores and stuff, that'll do their confidence no end of good, and I think that will stand them in good stead for years to come. So
yeah, well, that would be really good to see if that happens. Definitely.
Yeah. Good stuff. Right. Have I made you wait long enough?
I'm excited.
Shall we get into it? I still haven't got anything in terms of music for this. I really should do, but The Umpire Strikes Back.
The Umpire Strikes Back.
Yeah, you go. There you go. I'll have the preview. Right. I'm going to give you yours first. I'm not giving you the choices.
Okay. All right.
Right, The Umpire Strikes Back. So, for anybody that is new to this feature and new to the podcast, this is where we give each other slightly obscure umpiring situations, and the other has to make a verdict on it, and we tell them how well they've done. So, your scenario this week is, right, you have a batsman. He's on 99 runs, and the ball comes to him, and he basically hits a little dolly right up back to the bowler, and he is very annoyed with himself, and he slams his bat down on the floor, and in doing so he distracts the bowler, who then drops the catch. What do you do? So bowler's bowled the ball, batsman's flicked it up in the air, pretty much straight back to him, got really annoyed with himself, slammed his bat down on the ground, and in doing so he distracts the bowler, who drops the catch. What do you do?
I don't know. I think for me, the first thing that came to my mind was not out, because like an interesting sort of action or an interesting, action for striking the ball, for example, like. You could do a full 360 like spin before you hit the ball if you wanted to. And that would be quite distracting. I don't think, but it's after he's stricken the ball, isn't it? No, I'm gonna stick with not out. I don't. Yeah, not out.
Correct. Good decision. Yeah, no, good decision. So if there's an appeal, it's not out. He hasn't done it deliberately, I think is the key there. He's just been annoyed and like slammed his bat down. if he has like run towards the bowler and gone ah, with his arms outstretched or something to try and distract him, obviously that's not allowed, and that's going to get him out. But yeah, he's just being odd. You go and have a word with him and tell him not to do it again. But basically, yeah, it's not out, and it's just the bowler's fault for not keeping his eye on the ball. So yeah, good work.
Yeah.
Good work.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right.
Go on
ready
then.
for yours?
I'm ready.
Okay, so a batsman is having a spectacular kind of time, hitting boundaries, hitting sixes. So the bowling attack switches it up. They put a bit of swing on it. Batsman's caught a slip.
Mm-hmm.
So, obviously dismissed as what the original thing would be. However, as the fielders celebrate, a spectator comes on and he points out that when the last ball was delivered, and when that before the dismissal, that last delivery was hit for a boundary, that a fan who caught that ball actually spat on the ball and rubbed it, tampering the ball before tossing it back onto the field of play. What do you do?
Interesting. So the just so I'm clear on this. So the batsman, he's been smacking all over the place. He hits one into the crowd, and a fan then tampers with the ball in whatever way it is. He spat on the ball. He's tampered with it, and then thrown it back on, and the game has continued, and he's got out next ball.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the guy's out. I think that's it. I think he's just done. I'm sorry. It doesn't matter. I think he might then look at changing the ball. If you then inspect the ball and think that there's something wrong with it, and you might want to change the ball after that, but I think he's just done. I think he's out. If he thought something had happened with the ball and had got to it beforehand, you could have inspected the ball then and looked at it and made a decision. But I think he's just out and has got to suck it up.
Ding, ding, ding. Yes, completely correct. You'd have to stick to your decision to dismiss the batsman. You can't be taking advice from a spectator, no matter how founded it could be, and the fact that sort of the ball was swinging and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't really matter if it's been dismissed. It's been dismissed.
Yeah, you're out.
You're out.
Good stuff.
Correct.
2 for 2. We almost know our stuff, don't we? Man.
That's it. Yeah. Just I'll still be playing. I'll still only be doing square leg. Don't get any idea.
I think we should have an umpiring masterclass, and I think we should get you learning how to umpire properly. None of this. So I'm just going to stand at square leg. Oh, is it out? Not out? Nah.
Well, if you're batting, it's a bit. If you're batting in my left home, it's a bit difficult, though, isn't it?
Yeah, damn right. So you just make sure you give all the right decisions for me, then. That's it. Well, hopefully, pandemic will pass, and we'll be able to get out there playing. I said to you actually, didn't I? Text you at the weekend saying I was watching the UAE versus Ireland game, which was on like free to air TV on some weird channel like Free Sports or something, which is around somewhere if you Google it. And it was just great watching some actual cricket happening, and they're out there, they're enjoying it, and I was like, I'm just massively jealous, and people are getting out to play cricket at the moment. So I've got that itch. I'm ready to get back out there, and hopefully vaccines and all the rest of it will come and solve the world's problems, and we can get back out to some cricket, which is really what the whole world is waiting for, I think.
I think so. I think that's definitely what I'm waiting for, and I think with this recent lockdown, and for anybody overseas, we're in a kind of similar lockdown to the first one, but with the vaccine now, and I think there's light at the end of this lockdown, and after that, I am just, I'm not even going to be able to contain myself. I'm just going to be probably overdosing on cricket.
Yeah, definitely. I know everyone keeps saying, I can't wait to go to the pub again. I was like, I don't care about the pub. Just get me some cricket and I'll be there.
Get me a field.
Get me to those nets. That's all I want.
Yeah, 12 people. Don't even need 11 aside. Just 12 people.
I don't even need 12. Just you and I will do.
Yeah, that's it.
We'll do it, man. That's not a problem.
One bat, one ball. Just get us out there. We're ready.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, I have to dig out my bat and see where it is. It's in the shed, I think. I need to make sure that survived the winter.
Well, that's another thing, actually, because if anybody out there knows or wants to comment, I oiled my bat last season and knocked it in and everything else. I used it once, and one of those dismissals was pretty much for a duck. So do I need to oil it again?
No.
Leave your comments and voices.
I think you're fine, mate. I think the oil is still freshly on the surface of that bat. I don't think not a ball has seen that bat, has it? Really? You got a leg by for one and a duck, didn't you? That's what happened.
Pretty much, yeah. My pads took more of a beating than that bat.
Yeah, your bats might need cleaning, your pads might need cleaning, but your bat's all right, all fine. It's not a problem.
Oh, God.
Yeah, well, thank you everybody for listening. If you would like to get in touch with us, if you are able to play cricket wherever you are in the world, then do send us some videos of it, because we just want to be jealous of that.
Yep.
So you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Wrong End Podcast, or you can email us wronganotherstick@hotmail.com. We've got merch, we've got YouTube, we've got everything. All the links are down below wherever you listen to your podcasts. Do go on and give us a nice 5-star review wherever you're listening, and we will catch you next time.
Happy New Year, everyone, and thanks for listening.
Happy New Year. Thank you very much, everyone.
Cheers.
Bye.